Okay, we are about to start. Chamil is here. Chamil, you can proceed by unmuting your mic.
Hi guys.
Hi, Chamil, we can hear you. Okay.
Yeah, good. So, sorry for the disruption, and I think we have lost a lot of people, like around at least 100 and 250 for the moment. Uh, anyway, we will be able to give them a video, as well as we can have another session, or we can discuss what we can do for them next time. Later.
So we are recording this, so they will be given the
Good.
replay as well.
Right, good. So let me start and tell you that what is this overall IoT thing is. Now, when it comes to IoT, it's like Internet of Things, and we have mentioned that Internet of Things is interconnecting computing devices which are embedded into real life things. So that is what the major idea is. Then we have discussed something about this part, this particular scenario. Now there is a person who is brushing teeth, and there is another girl who is looking at her weight, and the scale is automatically threatening this particular refrigerator to cut off the access to the fridge. So that is the scenario. Okay. Now, when it comes to this kind of scenario, how does these things are happening? If you think about this particular scenario, there are sensors, connectivity, there are actuators. So what do you mean by a sensor? So sensor is something which is getting some kind of a sensor, and connectivity is something like you are connecting this scaler to this particular refrigerator. Actuators are something when let's say LED bulb. Now you are giving some output. Now motor, it's giving an output. So those are the actuators. So here in this case, refrigerator is an actuator. The person here is, the scale here is a what? Can you type? What is that? What is this scaler? Is it connectivity, actuator, or sensor? Right, good. People are coming up with the right answers. Good. Now, let's look at this particular scenario. If we want to improve this particular scenario, there are decision making part if the weight is greater than 60. Right. Okay. The next thing is the refrigerator. Now, when it comes to this particular decision, the decision is very primary decision. It's really small thing if weight is greater than 60. But what we want is some advanced scenario. Let's say that if we look at this particular scenario, is this 60 valid for everyone? What do you think? Can you give kind of idea? What's your answer on the chat? Right, good. It's no. From which heaven this 60 came in? Now tell me all the heavens you know. Right, okay. I'll put it on the full screen. Maybe you should be able to see it in that case. Right. Can you see it now? Okay. Now, the second thing is, now this 60 actually comes from various facts and knowledge. One thing is the BMI, the body mass index. It's provided by many researchers, actually based on many analytics on various people. They have came up with an index called BMI, and height, gender matters. So the BMI range we can expect from one person who is 5 feet high versus 6 feet high. So the BMI value is something two different things. Based on the gender again, we will be able to differentiate the BMI levels, the accurate BMI levels. So that is what we need. Now our solution, the previous solution I have shown you, it is not thinking about what is this particular BMI, what is the height of this person. It is not considered. That is the concern. Now when it comes to this place, if we know the height, gender, BMI, everything, we can come up with a good solution, better solution. The second thing, can you see any central place to make this decision? If you think about this particular scenario, scale should be created only to deal with this particular refrigerator. So the scale should know that there is a refrigerator. This refrigerator should be most probably developed by the same company. So is it the situation with you? Is the same situation? You buy all the scales and refrigerators, TVs, everything from the same brand? I hope no. Okay. So that is where, yes, that is where we need some kind of a matter, some kind of a central place. Now, if you have a central place or central component, which will be connecting all these devices like refrigerators, fans, switches, and all these things, then you will be able to make more decisions with more facts. So that is what our whole idea. And now the second thing, I'm going to improve this particular solution a little bit further. Our solution is like, we have this particular device, Bluetooth enabled scale, and we will be having our mobile phone, and we are writing a mobile application in this mobile phone. And for the refrigerator, if the refrigerator already comes with Bluetooth enabled lock, then we will be able to connect to that lock from the mobile application and do our work. In case, if it is a traditional old refrigerator, we will be able to use something like electronic lock. There are certain electronic locks where when you give the power, it will be automatically unlocking. And there can be some kind of a processing module like Node MCU. If you think about Node MCU or Arduino, those are small computers with various features. Now you are talking about your computer in gigahertz of processing, megahertz, gigabytes of RAM, and so on. But when you think about this particular Node MCU like things, they have 200, 300 megahertz processors, maybe couple of megabytes of RAM, and so on. And they may have special features like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and all these things. And the board to board, the feature set is differentiating. Now, you will be able to do this particular scenario using this Bluetooth enabled scale as well as Bluetooth enabled Node MCU plus electronic lock, or the Bluetooth enabled lock. Now, what is missing there? You may need to find this particular person's height. And the BMI, when you are looking at the BMI, we have to think about the country as well, whether he's a Sri Lankan person or US person or UK person. Because maybe one given BMI is okay for a Sri Lankan person, but not for the UK person, right? So in that case, what we can do is, how many of you have heard of Google Fitness, Google Fit API? What is that? What is Google Fit? Okay. Google Fit is kind of a API or a mobile application which is tracking your fitness, whether you have done exercises, what is your weight, what is your height, what is your heart rate, and the step count and everything. Yes, good health tracking. Now, the scale and everything will be ideally connected to that, and they are connecting a lot of things, lot of data or the facts about you. Now, if we connect our application to this fitness thing, then we will be able to make decisions based on many methods. For an example, even though you are a little bit overweighted, since you have ran or you have exercised for more than 1 hour and you have ran for 10 kilometers this day, it's okay to unlock the refrigerator, right? What do you think? Is it okay or not? Good. It's okay. That is why we need some kind of a integration with those things. Now the problem, how we can integrate this particular Google Fit with our application. How it is happening is through APIs, application program interfaces. If you are not aware of application program interfaces, you may search for REST, R-E-S-T, representational state transfer, or maybe there are many other protocols given. The REST is based on HTTP, the same web thing. And now, if you have MQTT like knowledge, then that will be also beneficial, but I'm not going to discuss anything about that since this is a beginner's crash course. Okay. What is next? I'm going to show you a video. Let me get that video. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, can you see this video? Now, since mom and dad is coming, since they are coming to a home, the garage is automatically open, and the oven is preheating because the oven knows that they are coming to cook now. And then here the room is occupied, light will be automatically switched on, shower automatically getting heated. You can see light has automatically switched off, and then the refrigerator has tomatoes, orange juice, eggs, and all the things. Now eggs are out of stock. What will happen is the refrigerator will automatically order some eggs from the supermarket or Amazon. Now, since that guy is not waking up, the stereo sound of that particular guy's room has been increased to 90%. Now he is waking up. Okay, the car gas below quarter of the tank. Because of that, it will be automatically notifying this father, please leave early because you have to fill up your tank and go, otherwise you won't be able to go in time. Then, even though the garage should be closed, it is not closing because toxic fumes are there. Oh, door is open. Now he got the notification, please close it. that work, and automatically the computer will be woke up and shades will be automatically opened. Automatically a new conference room will be booked. So speed limit advisors will be automatically pushed to the car. Because of that, she will automatically reduce. And actually the car may automatically reduce the speed as well in the future. Already we have autonomous cars. Now you already know that with Google we will be able to simply tell that, okay, oh, that visitor is automatically allowed to come in based on his QR code. So even air quality also get censored or notified. So for dinner, rice is out of stock. You will get notifications. So even before you go into this particular shop, the shop will know that you want these things. Okay guys, let me go back to my screen and show you. Now this is what we call life simplified. Now this is what the overall goal of IoT, and whatever the solutions you are developing, it is something like this, very interesting, and the people will be amazed. So they are thinking like, oh my God, how all these things are happening. Now you will see there should be complex rules, there should be complex decision making, and there should be lot of things added to here. For an example, security and those things. Now let's look at the components of particular typical IoT solution. Hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay. Now, typically in an IoT solution, there are sensors. You have to sense heartbeat, oxygen, humidity, vibration, photo sensing, that means light, how much light level is, cameras, switches, you name all the parameters, almost everything, we have a sensor. I'll give you one example. Now, when you are in a shop, right? You are in a shop. Now, few months ago, you were in shops to buy clothes and all, right? Not recently, probably, right? So in that case, you can be at some kind of a cloth or a frog or something, nice frog, okay, when you see that, you are really amazed and you feel like, oh, that is for me. In that case, do you know that your heartbeat increases a little bit? Now, if you have a very good camera with very good lighting, through that camera we can capture your heartbeat. not by looking at your chest, but by looking at your skin. The skin color changes every time the heart pumps. So by looking at that skin color variation through the camera, analyzing that particular video stream, we will be able to capture whether your heartbeat has gone up or not. Number two, through the camera, by analyzing this video stream, we will be able to see whether you are a girl or boy. We will be able to see whether you have a fair skin or dark skin. What is your eye color? What is the size, average size? Let's say that the height and the hip and all these things. Then the color you are already wearing. So everything can be taken by analyzing this video stream. There are technologies. Now it's not a magic. It's very simple thing. And even that it can say whether you are between age 35 to 40 or 30 to 35 or 25 to 30. Because we recently have developed some age verifier to make sure that when you are selling liquor to a person, whether that person is underage or not. To identify that, we have developed certain video algorithms as well. So there are a lot of things like this. So those are sensors. When it comes to actuators, we have even a simple LED light. It's an actuator. It's giving an output. Whether the door is locked or not, we can mimic it by showing a red or green LED. There can be locks, motors, screens, speakers, laser guns, anything. Any output device, even a fan, can become an actuator. So based on the decisions made upon sensors, the actuators will give you the output. Then there should be certain processors. Why do you need processors? Any answers? Why do we need processors? Yes, those are the decision makers. You are exactly correct. Get the decision. To get the decisions and analyze data, we need processes. There are a lot of various reasons we need processors, right? The processors, possible processors are servers. Maybe those are servers in the cloud, or maybe your laptop, maybe your smartphone, maybe a simple processor, cheap processor like Arduino, or maybe you will be able to develop a custom circuit based on some chips or simple circuit to make some decision, right? And for this IoT, you have seen already in that video, the most important part is people, you and me, your mom, your dad, your employees. So everyone, it's really important. Without them, there is no purpose of having IoT solutions, right? So the solution is there to support us. So if we don't have any people, right, there is no IT solutions most of the times at all. There may be certain things because we are there. We are developing those solutions to cater ourselves. There is a rare chance that you develop certain solutions for birds and elephants and so on. But again, it's for our benefit. Do you clear? Are you clear? Now, why we are saving elephants? It's for human beings' safety. If we save elephants only, the others, the forests and everything will get saved. Okay? That those things should be saved because we need them, right? Now, the next thing is things. So, Internet of Things, that is really important. Shoes, t-shirt, table, cup, bottle, fridge, TV, you name it, it's a thing. We will be adding sensors, actuators, and everything to things. Maybe your shoe will have certain sensors, actuators. Now, the next important question, what is that? Hello. Hope all of you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, Chamil.
Okay, I'll continue. Right, maybe a temporary issue. Now, there are as I mentioned, processes, people, things, everything is there. When it comes to security, what do you mean by security? Now assume that you have comprehensive solution, IoT solution, you have cameras everywhere, you have sensors, actuators everywhere, but the nasty boy next to your house, he get the control of everything. Now, while you are on sleep at the midnight, he suddenly increasing the temperature of the air condition to 30 Celsius. Do you like that? And he will be switching on your camera, on the camera, on your in your bedroom and watching you. Do you like it? Probably not, right? Okay. Now, if you think about security, there are multiple things we have to consider. One is encryption. Now, when we are sending some data from one end to the other end, what we can do is we can encrypt. Can you remember there was in our young age, I don't know whether you had that opportunity, there was a language called Sini Bhasha, right? After every character, we are adding Sini and telling. So when you are telling that, nobody can understand, but the people who knows that they have to remove Sini and identify the letter, they can easily understand what you are telling, right? That is called encryption. We are adding certain noises or we are jamming our data in a pattern so that the person who knows that pattern can extract the real thing. All the others who doesn't know about the pattern, they cannot extract that. So that is called encryption, and there is something called authentication. So authentication is all about identify the right person, whether this is Chamil. How you can identify whether it is Chamil or not, right? Oh, there is a person who knows Sini language, right? Really good, right? Authentication. Authentication is to know who is that person, whether that is you or not, basically. And there is something called authorization. Authorization is not authentication, but even though this is the system identified you and he knows that this is the person you are, but authorization is whether this particular person is allowed to do this particular thing. Are you clear? Now, when you go into the airport and when you try to enter to some critical area, they are looking at your identity card to make sure that you are, oh, I am Chamil Jivanta. So they have looked at my identity card and identified, okay, this person called Chamil Jivanta, okay, fine. Now they will be checking some additional things with their system, or they will ask from someone else, right? That is called authorization. Even though I have authenticated, if I don't have authority, I cannot go in. So that is what authorization. So encryption, authentication, authorization, there are many concepts called hashing and so on. I'm not going to discuss. So everything matters. Now the next thing is connectivity. If you think about connectivity, how you can connect the things or the computers, sensors, actuators embedded in the things, how each of them can communicate. So that is what connectivity. You can use Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, TCP/IP, MQTT, WebSockets. I'm sure that you may not have heard of everything, but the list is exhausting. The list is really big. I cannot mention everything here. And there is something called gRPC, and it grows, and the new technologies are also coming in. So the next thing is analytics. What do you mean by analytics? Yes, any idea? Okay, somebody has told wireless also a good thing. Yeah, wireless, there are many protocols like Wi-Fi and all these things. Can you tell me what is analytics? Okay, everybody is typing. Let's see what they are telling. Right, good. Analytics. It's analyzing data, collecting data and making decisions. Good, good. So you are really good. Thank you. Analytics is, now we will be having, now see that we have thousands, not thousands, millions of sensors and actuators all over the world, reporting to everywhere. Everybody who is having your mobile phone, do you know that even the things you are talking in your bedroom, those are sometimes analyzed and get used to provide you better advertisements. And have you gone through that recently? Everybody has shared that Facebook is tracking offline activities as well. If you, even if you are not in Facebook, your activities on different internet things will be tracked by Facebook. Now, how many data, how many people are there in the Facebook? And all the activities, even when you are not in Facebook, they are collecting. What amount of data, as you believe? Is it several gigabytes per second? Or is it several petabytes in per maybe hour? Right? Yes, exactly. But the people are really smart now. The technology is really smart. They have way of analyzing and going through this and extracting patterns. Right? Based on these patterns, you can give a lot of things, like a lot of predictions. Okay, this person will buy a pair of shoe by next week. That is one of the predictions that can be done based on these petabytes of data. So it's no longer a magic. It's really simple thing when it comes to the technology, right? Right. You can Google and see what kind of activities FB is tracking when offline. So it's a very common thing these days. They have even given a kind of a setting to go and see what are the activities they have tracked about you. Under settings, there is some menu. Okay, you can go and see. Right. So these analytics are really important. Why? Because if you have powerful analytics on top of big data, you can show the user a magic. As if like you are thinking to go outside today, but you have just thought of that. But using analytics, sometimes the analysis engine or whatever the analysis mechanism can suggest or think or predict you will be going in this evening to the park. Now he has thought of that. Now using statistics, they have analyzed and understood you are going there. Now you have even just thought of it. But suddenly your mobile phone will come up with a message. Okay, if you are thinking to go into park, please don't go tonight. It will be raining. In the evening, it will be raining. Now, in order to tell that it is raining tonight, he has to go and search for the weather. Now, as I mentioned you, there is something called openweather.org, which is providing free APIs to know about the weather conditions. Now, if you are developing some kind of a IoT solution, if you want to be aware of the weather, then you may probably use that API. And when it comes to, there are many APIs like that free of charge. For an example, COVID-19, we have many other APIs provided by John Hopkins University. So if you are developing some kind of IoT solution or any other solution based on COVID-19, the latest statistics and all can be grabbed from that particular API. So that is what the beauty of APIs, and APIs are one of the most important parts when it comes to IoT solution. Okay. What are the challenges we have when we are developing an IoT solution? What do you think? Good. What is that COVID API? You can search Google, and John Hopkins University has given, and also our health bureau has given things, right? Okay, you are coming up with lot of things. Gain risk, interoperability, security, right? You can see the list as well. But anyway, thank you. That's a good list. Right. The first thing, size of the device really matters. can you include or can you embed this a laptop in a shoe? No, right? Can you embed a mobile phone in a shoe to capture values or capture the things? No. So you have to make sure the size is matching with whatever the object you are going to embed that particular thing. For a refrigerator, it is actually okay to have a few centimeters long thing to be included or embedded. The reason is refrigerator is quite big and adding a small component like that doesn't harm. But if you try to add a huge thing like 5 centimeters long circuit board into a shoe, that will be a real problem. The next thing is flexibility. Now, there are certain places where if you want to add certain sensors into the wristwatch, then it should be flexible. And if you are trying to add certain sensors or actuators into one of the pages in your book, that should be flexible. That is why flexible screens, flexible keyboards, you may have seen that a lot of researchers are going on those things. And the third most important thing is power consumption. Why I say that? If you have incorporated or embedded some kind of a sensor or processing thing which is doing great analysis on your foot, the pattern of your foot, the movements, then in that case, what will happen is the power will be draining. Every 5 minutes, you have to change the battery because battery consumption is really high. Is it practical? No. If you have to charge your phone by every hour, that is not practical. So when you are developing this kind of little things, always you have to think about the constraints, the power consumption. You have to make sure power consumption is less. And network connectivity. If you want that device to be connected forever, the battery will be drained faster. Now that is why you have to think about offline mode. You are collecting all this information to a period for a period of time, and then every 10 minutes, every 1 hour, every 2 hours, you are just broadcasting that message. So those kind of things, if you are doing like that, the power consumption will be really less on this particular network connectivity. Now you have to think about these things. There are certain conditions, the power consumption is not a problem, but the network bandwidth is very limited. In that kind of a situation, what you have to do is you have to compress. You have to zip or RAW whatever the content you have, and then zipped content will be delivered through the network, and you will be extracting at the other end. But if you want to do that, power consumption will be and the processing power should be really okay, right? Based on all these facts, you have to decide what you are going to do. And most of the things you are developing, it should be ready for rough usage. Now, if you are adding some kind of IoT sensors or something to a hammer or something, now what will happen? When you are trying to hit a nail or concrete using that hammer, the chance of getting broken, that particular device or the circuit is really high. Now you have to go into industrial level components in that case. So when it comes to sensors, actuators or processors and all these things, there are a couple of grades: military grades, industry grade, consumer grade, and so on. So when you are selecting that particular sensor, you have to be really aware of what kind of a grade you are going ahead with. Now, if you try to get some component in the military grade, it will be maybe $200. But when you are getting the same component for trial things, that might be 0.5 dollar or $1. Now that is why, again, you have to think about the cost as well. If the cost is high, then there is no use of your solution. If your solution is like a couple of millions, if I have to spend couple of $1 million to buy your solution, then the customers will be really less for you. So that is why we need to make sure the cost also has been balanced. And security, I have already discussed. Privacy, that is one of the important things. Whatever the secret things you have, who's the girlfriend with you, It shouldn't know by the other people, right? It's up to you, right? Those are things called privacy. And scalability. What do you mean by scalability? This is one of the good things. Now assume that I have sensors, maybe initially 20 or 50 sensors, which are connected to a small computer. Now suddenly I want to connect all these sensors around from my company and all these things into this computer. Now the number of sensors has grown into millions. Can I connect to one single computer? It's almost not possible, right? So that is what scaling. I have my solution really working with 10 people and couple of thousand sensors. But when it automatically get popular, we should be able to scale it to that level. So it's something like now you have seen that the platform is expecting around 200 people to be there in this particular webinar. Suddenly it goes to 400. Now how we can scale, that is a real challenge in software world. It's not only for this platform, but everywhere that challenge is there. So that is what scalability requirement is. And big data, how to handle petabytes of data. How many of you have at least 1 petabyte of disk in your computer? Anyone? Raise your hand if you have any, if I can see anyone with petabyte, 1 petabyte disk, even 20 terabytes. Right. But with IoT solutions, the data per day may be several gigabytes, thousands of gigabytes, I mean terabytes. And if you collect those data, for an example, we had one customer who is having around 80 million customer base, a retail store having 80 million customers. Now for all 10 years or for the past 10 years, all the buying, all the visits, all the website clicks have been recorded in databases. Now, what do you think? How much data will be there? In order to process and do analytics and extract certain patterns, we had to use a 400 node cluster. That means 16 core, 48 gigabyte servers, 400 servers like that. We needed to process those data. And even that processing for one single algorithm took 2.5 days. That is the amount of data you have to work with. Those are the data we are calling big data. So you have to deal with big data, and there are separate technologies, there are separate structures, there are separate software and methods to do this big data analysis. And the most hardest part is different technologies. Now think about this situation. If you have a LG remote control, can you control Samsung TV? Both are TVs, right? No, you can't. You have faced that situation, right? Samsung TV and LG TV. Yes, we cannot. So that is the differentiation of technologies, right? Even though both are using RFID, even though the remote controls underneath using the same technology, they are talking differently. For an example, every button you are pressing on your remote control, there is a unique number. Maybe plus button is 30,000 for, let's say, LG. The volume up button for Samsung is 20,000, right? So that those kind of differentiations are there. That is called the language differentiation. Protocol is different. Okay. So these are challenges we have. And then things you should learn. What you should learn. Now you obviously want to know about network programming, isn't it? Yes, you have to do programming through network, communicate through network. You have to think about socket connections, WebSockets, REST, gRPC, MQTT, how we handle these failures. If the connectivity is suddenly broken, what we should do, what are the methods, how we can save power, everything comes in. Android, iOS programming, it's needed. Embedded system programming, Arduino, not MCU, or maybe small custom circuits, custom chips, how to program them. You want to know that. Photo and video processing, as I mentioned you, by looking at the video, you have to write a program to extract that person's demographics, whether she is a girl or boy, how many people are there, and so on. Now, those are not magic. There are technologies, but you have to learn how to use them. So for a hint, I will give you OpenCV is one of the libraries supporting all these things. And the statistics. This is what governing the artificial intelligence world. Statistics. You want to know. If you haven't learned mathematics, statistics properly, then it's really worth you go through an online course, free online course, and learn some statistics. It's really
Shamil?
important. Yeah.
Sorry, there's a question for you. Would CCNA cover network programming?
Actually, CCNA is more about constructing networks and managing, keeping networks, administration of networks. That is what CCNA is, Cisco Certified Network Administrator. Administrator means you are combining these things together and make sure that network is supporting anything. But when it comes to network programming, it's more about software. It is about how to write a Java program which will be consuming data coming from the Open API. How can I send from this Java application to my mobile application running on the web, running on my mobile phone, particular information. So those are called network programming. And so that is why we cannot learn it from network administration perspective. Anyway, if you search for REST, right? So I have typed it in the chat, REST for beginners or something in Google. Definitely you will come up with a lot of tutorials. So if you go through 5-6 tutorials, the first things, the very first few pages you have to follow. And you will suddenly find, okay, this particular REST tutorial is interesting for me. Now that is where you have to start learning. You have to follow this. Don't just read through this, but try out those examples as well. Okay, I think I have answered the question. If not, please raise it. Right, so all these things, electronics, everything you have to learn. What do you think? What's your opinion? Can you learn everything? Unfortunately, if you don't like, still you have to learn. Okay, good. Now I can imagine your faces. That is why I have this particular face here. So your mood is like this, but don't worry. Big journeys begin with small steps. That's what my opinion is. So I am going to show you the very first step you can come into this IoT world. It's a very simple thing. So I'm going to show you how you can program a simple Arduino, right? But the problem now, how many of you own Arduino? How many of you don't own an Arduino or any other device? Right, good. There are many people, and unfortunately, if you don't have it, there is no way to buy it now because you are locked up, right? Raspberry, yes, you can use Raspberry Pi, non-MCU, and a lot of things are there. So don't worry, if you have some embedded device, you can try out. But if you don't have, or if you are afraid of getting it burned due to your experiments, what you can do? I'm going to show you a simulator. So what do you mean by simulator? Yeah, simulator is kind of the Tinkercad. Yeah, I'm going to use the same. You can try out it virtually. So that is what I'm going to show you now. So let me share my browser first. Okay. Okay, you can see me now. Now this is called Tinkercad. If you type tinkercad.com and try to go into here, you are asked to sign up, register. Go and register. Then you will be there in this kind of a dashboard. Can you see this dashboard? Okay. Now you can go into this circuits. Then you can create a new circuit with this link. Create new circuit. Okay, now you have hell of compute components like Arduinos, vibration motors, DC motors, motor servos, LEDs, photoresistors, ultrasonic distance sensors, PIR sensors. If one of you want to know what are these sensors, you can just search in internet. And also they have given certain pre-built solutions as well. I'm going to show you how can I do a basic thing. Now what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm getting one battery like this. I'm dragging and dropping it, and then I'll make it two batteries, right? Then I'm searching for a LED. Okay, I have an LED. Now I can draw a line like this, and the next one to here. Right, now if I try to simulate, what will happen? LED crashed. Can you see? What's the reason? The amount of current that has gone through this LED is 136 milliamperes, where LED is expecting maximum of 20 milliamperes. Now can you see? So what we can do? We can have a resistor in between, and through that we can give power. Okay, now it is not working properly. Why? The resistor is too much. Resistance is 1 kilo ohm. So let's make it around 50 ohms. Right, good. It works. Right? Now I can even get a simple switch like this. Then I can remove one of these lines, add to this switch, and this also into this particular line. Now I can start my simulation. Now it is not glowing, the LED is not working. If I click on this particular switch, it will change. Can you see? Now likewise, you can develop your own circuits. So that is what this simulator is. Okay, let me go into some advanced thing now. Since I want to save my time, I'm showing you this particular one. And here, this is my Arduino. So this is a board called Arduino. It's a small computer. It has a lot of pins. Pin 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 13, ground, and so on. Now we can pin anything like this. I am going to show you a real object through my webcam. So let me open up my webcam first. Can you see this? It is so-called an Arduino. So the real connectivity happens with wires like this. If you think about these wires, can you see the edge is like sharp? Now I can plug anything like this here to any pin. And these things can be plugged back into some other thing. Okay, for LEDs or anything. There are certain things called project board as well. So I can use a project board, but all these things can be learned through internet. There are enough tutorials to support that. Okay, let me go back here. Now what I have done is I have used couple of pins. This ground is the minus or the ground actually, and then I have chosen this 13 pin number 13 through
Shamil?
a resist. Yeah, please continue.
Better you turn off the camera because I can see that your connection is getting weaker.
Oh my god, so thank you, I'll do that. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now if you think about this particular scenario, I have chosen this 13 pin number 13 and I have connected an LED through this what we called the resistor, and I have chosen this ground, and pin number 2, it is connected to an LDR. LDR means photoresistor. Whenever there is light, whenever it is daytime, it will automatically block the current, right? It will allow passing current. If it is night or if you close it using your hand or a piece of paper, it will block the current through that. So based on that, this pin number 2 will be either grounded. If it is passing current, it will be grounded. If it is not passing current, it will be plus, connected to this plus 5 volt. Okay. So that is what the thing. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to read this particular value, whether it is 1 or 0 in this particular pin number 2. If it is 1, I am going to do what? Switch on this pin number 13, otherwise switch off it. So in order to do that, I have to write a code. How can I write that code in Arduino? Now, if you go into this code block, they are showing a lot of codes like this. Now, what I have to do is, first of all, control, and there are a lot of input, output, and a lot of things are there. Now, what I'm going to do first is I am dragging and dropping this, right? So likewise, I am choosing this set pin 0. Okay, shall I go into a different small scenario first? Just to switch on and off a light, I'll show it first. Now I have this resistor and the thing. So I'm making it around 220 ohms for a moment. And I am getting this Arduino. Now for this Arduino, what I'm going to do is the ground will be connected to ground, and oh sorry, I will remove this. I have removed this as well. Now this plus is connected to pin number 4. Okay, and this ground is connected to ground. What I am going to do now is I am going to switch on and off this separately. How can I do that? First of all, I'm going into code, and this is what the code for that is. Even I don't need to write it, it will be automatically written. Now what they have written here, set built-in LED high, but I don't want this built-in LED. So I'm going to remove everything. Delete. First of all, I am getting this set pin. Which pin I have connected this LED? Pin 1, 2, 3. What is that? Okay, what is the pin I have connected? 4. Good. So I am telling that pin number 4, make it high. And then there are certain control mechanisms. For an example, I can say wait 5 seconds or 1 second. 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So I can do it like this. Again, after 3 seconds, what should I do? Set pin to what? High? No, already it is high. After 3 seconds, what I want to do is switch off this. So switching off means set pin 4 to what? High or low? It is low. Then I have to again wait. So under control, there is wait. I am waiting for 3 seconds, or let's say 1 second for the moment to make it faster. Right. Now I'm running. What is happening? Okay, it is blinking. Are you good? Can you see it is blinking? Okay, good. Right. So now I'm asking, how can I do? Even I can see the code as well. If I download this code from here, it will be showing the real code I have to see. Right. Okay. The next thing. If I want to have another light, what should I do? If I want to have another light, what should I do? I have to do the same setup for a different pin and do the same operation like this. Okay, so that's how we can do that. The second thing what I'm going to do here now is I am going to add a switch, right? Let me go away from the code and I am going to add a switch here, right? The switch is assigned to pin number 2 and the one terminal is assigned to 5 volt, the other terminal is for ground. Did you get that? Now if you put the switch here, it is grounded, that means 0. If I put this switch to the other way, it is 5 volt, that means 1. Okay, but it is all pin number 2. Now the pin number 2 is a input, pin number 4 is an output. How can I make sure, distinguish this in my code? How can I tell that, okay, pin number 4 is input and pin number so on? So what I have to do is here, there is something called input, right? So what I should do is read digit from pin what to which one. So actually there is a control mechanism called if else. Inside that I have to put it. So if you think about this math, right? If something equals something. So here what I'm going to do is I'm adding read pin here. Do you get this? Now what I have done is, in this if there should be kind of a mathematical block telling that, okay, please do some kind of a check. That check is read the digital pin to equals to 1. If it is equals to 1, what should I do? I have to output what? The pin number 4 is high. If it is low, else what should I do? Set pin number 4 to low. Okay, I'm running. Now it is, what has happened? Okay, it's gone. Pin number 2 and ground. Five volt. Okay, what is happening? Did you get it? Are you clear? Any questions, guys? So I can change this. 0, switch is off. 1, switch is on. Now, if I go and change my code, what will happen? Like this. Not t equals to 1. Now, what will happen? Can somebody tell me? If I run this, what will happen? Now, the code has been little changed. This if condition has been changed to from equals to not equal. Right, okay. So if it is now like here, let's say that initially when I'm putting it there, it will be now when I make it 0, it switched on. If I make it here, it will be switching on. Off and on changed. Okay, good. So that is how we can do many simulations, but you are not limited to that part. You have a lot of items here to try out. The Arduino DC motors, hobby gear motors, NPN transistors, RGB LEDs, multicolor LEDs, photoresistors. So let me show you one photoresistor based thing. So this is what I have done. If you look at my code, the same code, right? Read digital pin 2. If it is high, then if the light level is this, and you are switching on, otherwise switching off. Now let me run and show you. Now it is running. So I'm reducing the light now, increasing the light. Now this is darkness, this is lightness, more light. So I'm reducing. Okay, what is happening? Light got switched off. So remember, these pins up to 1 to 13, those are digital pins. Either 0 or 1 you can give, but you can't control the lights level. So these analog pins, you can give some values. For an example, through the analog pins, you can read the level of lighting. At that case, the present case, it is digital, either 1 or 0, the input is. Are you clear? So that is what my demonstration, and I'm not going to do further because we are already 8 minutes past. Sorry about that. So any questions? This is the time for your questions. Any questions? If you don't have any questions, I think we may be able to stop the thing, but you can ask any question.
Yeah, before
It's
that,
open. Okay, a lot of questions are coming and those are interesting as well. So when it comes to IoT platforms, there are many IoT platforms available. For an example, Thingiboard, let me check. There is something called Thingsboard, right? It's an open source IoT platform. If you're trying out, that's a real good one. You will be able to try out that. And since it is open source, you are free to use. Otherwise, everything like Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud, everybody is putting their own IoT platforms. You can try out them as well. But Thingiboard is one of the best, one of the good platforms when it comes to open source things. The next question is about Python or programming, Java or Python. So Python is easier. But when it comes to professional programming, sometimes most of the companies are using Java. But we cannot specifically say the Java is not good and Python is good. Anyway, I think as a person, as a software engineer or an engineer, you have to be aware of the concepts rather than the specific language. So if you know the programming concepts, if you know the network programming basics, from any language, you will be able to write your code. So that's what my suggestion is. But you can initially start with Python. There is no issue. If we write a code and simulate, how would we add it to the real board? Okay. So you can simply download. Let me share my screen. I'm sharing my screen, the entire screen. Okay. Now, if I go to this board and if I try to download one of my codes, right here, I can download it. Now you can open it. There is something called Arduino.cc. It's a free open source platform. You can download this editor and you can open it through this, right? So if you have this particular one, then your Arduino can be connected to your phone, your laptop using your laptop using a USB cable. So that is what normally happening. So let me show you. Now I'm going to connect my Arduino into my laptop, but here you can initially see board is Arduino Uno. I have to say tools and here tools boards. You have to select your right board. I'm using genuine Uno board, and then I'm going to plug it. Before plugging it, you can see there are Bluetooth input and MTP serial port, but it doesn't know what is the particular thing put there. So let me plug it and show you. Now, okay, I have plugged in. And if I go and see, now you can see there is a plugged new Arduino. Can you see that? If it is not selected like this, go and select it manually. Tools, port, and select it. Now your Arduino is plugged in. Now what you can do is you can go and get this downloaded content. Okay, what's happening? This is the downloaded content actually, right? So if I want to edit, I can simply type it like this. Now, how can I send it to my Arduino? That is happening like this. First of all, you have to go into here. First of all, verify and then upload this one. When you press it, it is asking for save. Okay, now it is uploading. Can you see? Here. Okay, it has been uploaded now. So this is how you can upload your code into Arduino. Okay. So there are enough tutorials in the internet. You will be able to follow up one of the things. Any questions? Okay, but what is the best website to learn this and programming languages? Right. Okay. If I mention you a couple of important points, there is something called Khan Academy. So we have recommended the Future Careers Bridge. If you go into that particular website, and if you have registered, there are a lot of challenges available. So if you are new, you can take this path. And here we have given a lot of challenges. For an example, introduction to programming, how to do that. So they have recommended a lot of resources. For an example, if you go and look at this few resources, code.org. This is to learn programming, not about the Arduino or anything. Even you can find those courses as well. So this is for introduction to programming. And if you go to one of the advanced things, like the advanced challenges, there is one challenge for smart device using Arduino, the challenge number 12. If you go and see, we have given all the materials to learn on these things. Tutorial using Arduino with ultrasonic sensor, Arduino online simulator, and so on. So these are the very good things that you can refer to. So everything is clearly mentioned.